What's going on, everybody? My name's Tenebris Infinite, and with today's video we're going to be discussing and comparing the various leg cyberware mods you can get in Cyberpunk 2077. In-game, there are 4 leg cyberware mods. 2 are available before the second act, and after the second act starts you get access to 2 further leg cyberware mods. The 4 cyberware mods are the Reinforced Tendons, the Fortified Ankles and a rare quality, Fortified Ankles and an epic quality, and the Lynx Paws. Reinforced Tendons are essentially a double jump, while rare Fortified Ankles are a boost jump. Epic Fortified Ankles are a double jump with a hover mode introduced, and Lynx Paws are for reducing the sound of your footsteps. We're going to test these 4 based on their mobility and vertical exploration, their horizontal distance, and then how you can apply them in combat. So let's get started with the verticality. So for the verticality, we're going to be testing this with a simple set of jumps in between a couple buildings here. And essentially the thing that you should be paying attention to is how smooth it is to actually do this kind of light parkour here in Cyberpunk 2077. With the Reinforced Tendons, they're very fast and very snappy due to that double jump, so you're able to do this vertical mobility very smoothly with the Reinforced Tendons. Now, for the Fortified Ankles, it's a bit of a different story. So in order to use the boost jump with the Fortified Ankles, you need to hold your jump button for a couple seconds before you're actually able to perform the full boost jump. Now, this leads to vertical mobility just ultimately being slower because you aren't able to just pull off a higher jump immediately. So you need to kind of plan your jumps and plan your movement a little bit more and take your movement a little bit more slowly with the rare Fortified Ankles. And the kind of final downside here is that you aren't able to save yourself mid-jump. You're only able to perform the boost jump when your feet are flat on the ground. And the final cyberware mod that we'll be able to show off vertical mobility with is the Epic Fortified Ankles. Now, again, this is kind of like a double jump, so maybe these should be called the Epic Reinforced Tendons as opposed to the Epic Fortified Ankles, but that's semantics. The real thing here, though, is that this gives you the same snappiness that the Reinforced Tendons have with the double jump, but added control with that hover mode introduced. So you're able to perform this vertical light parkour very easily with the Epic Fortified Ankles, but you also get just a little bit more control within it. Now, for the horizontal test, we're going to be jumping towards this dumpster at the end of this alleyway here, starting from the scaffolding that you see right in front of us. Now, the interesting thing with the Reinforced Tendons is it all depends on where you perform that second jump. You can potentially get a little bit more horizontal movement if you perform the jump a little bit later after your first jump. Whereas if you perform the second jump right after your first jump, you're obtaining more vertical momentum as opposed to horizontal momentum. Now, for the rare Fortified Ankles, you're going to notice a bit of a trend here in the video, in which case the rare Fortified Ankles don't have the same practicality as the Epic Fortified Ankles or as the Reinforced Tendons do. Now, with the rare Fortified Ankles, again, if you don't charge that jump fully, you just aren't getting enough power into your jump, so you won't have a lot of horizontal distance. But the other downside is that if you charge the jump fully, you get more vertical, but you don't get a lot of horizontal. So in the end, the Fortified Ankles in the rare quality are not very efficient for horizontal movement either, at least in comparison to the Reinforced Tendons and the Epic Fortified Ankles. Now, lastly, for the Epic Fortified Ankles, this is kind of interesting, in which case they're obviously better than the rare Fortified Ankles, but they aren't actually as good as the Reinforced Tendons. That hover mode actually reduces your velocity, basically, when you're in the air, so you wind up getting a little bit less horizontal movement than the Reinforced Tendons give you. Now, up until this point, we haven't been able to compare to the Lynx Paws because the Lynx Paws just don't offer mobility to you. They offer stealth instead. So now we're going to be going off and doing some combat tests with the 4, and this time we'll be able to actually take a look at the Lynx Paws and their application. Now, what the Lynx Paws do is they decrease the sound of your footsteps by 50%, which means that the enemies that are around you will not be able to hear your footsteps quite as easily. The only downside to this is that it doesn't reduce your visibility, it just reduces the noise of your footsteps. So it's not like the Lynx Paws are a stealth option for a non-stealth build. So if you happen to have a build that has a lot of cool attribute points, you're probably going to get some very decent usage out of the Lynx Paw. But if you're going for a more well-rounded build, or a build that's based around combat, the Lynx Paws might not be the best option. The more obvious downside to the Lynx Paws also is that lack of mobility. So the moment you get spotted by enemies, if you don't have a really high cool attribute, you're going to be kind of short-handed by having the Lynx Paws equipped, because you won't be able to maneuver around the combat arena as easily as possible.
Come out, damn it.
But as you can see here, if you install the correct cyberware, you can actually make some pretty decent use out of the Lynx Paws and have a kind of multi-purpose combat build. I currently have a cyberware installed that slows down time when I get detected, and so that means that I was able to make some pretty decent use out of the Lynx Paws while I was testing them out for this video. Now next up, the reinforced tendons and how you can apply them in combat. So with the reinforced tendons, with that really snappy, fast-paced double jump, you can use it to benefit really snappy, fast-paced combat. You can utilize that really fast double jump to just get over obstacles that are in your way and to kind of maneuver around the combat arena really quickly, actually. And then as well, a thing that I enjoy doing with the reinforced tendons is kind of doing like a jump attack towards the enemy, because a lot of times you can get your bullets to kind of trail behind you as you're making that really fast double jump. And then you can also use the double jump to really quickly vault over whatever cover the enemy AI is using. Now for the rare fortified ankles, again, the downside is that charge time that it takes in order to make your higher jump, your power jump. Now you can do the same kind of jump attack that you can do with the reinforced tendons double jump, but the lack of mid-air mobility that you have with the fortified ankles makes it a significantly less efficient jump attack approach. And for the final bit of combat comparisons here, the epic fortified ankles. So when you jump in the air with the epic fortified ankles and you activate that hover mode, if you ADS or aim down sights, you'll actually kind of hold yourself in place for a short split second. And this is actually really awesome to use in combat. Now also, because you do get a double jump with the epic fortified ankles, it again offers the same benefits that you get from the reinforced tendons, but with the added benefit of having just a higher amount of control due to that hover mode. Now lastly, let's talk about how you can acquire each of these cyberware mods. Now for the reinforced tendons and the fortified rare ankles, you get them off at the first Ripper dock that you actually visit and see in the game. Now, they are pretty costly for the early game. They cost 45,000 eddies per Cyberware mod, so they're pretty pricey for where you're at when you first get access to them, but eventually when you get into the later game, you'll realize that 45,000 eddies is not very much money at all. So if you're new to the game and you haven't memorized the map yet, or if you've made progress into the game and you just kind of forget where the first Ripper Dock is located at, it's just here in Chinatown, right near V's apartment. And for the two epic leg Cyberware mods that you can find them off at Fingers MD off in Japantown. The epic ankles will cost you 75 grand, and the epic Lynx Paws will cost you 85 grand, respectfully. Now, buying both of those at the same time is a pretty pricey endeavor, but if you're just aiming for one of them, saving up that amount of money, saving up to like 100,000 eddies, it's only going to take you at most like maybe an hour. Now, again, as I said, you can find Fingers MD off in Japantown in this kind of little cul-de-sac area, and I think it's near Cherry Blossom Ave. I don't have the streets memorized entirely, but it's just right here, right in this kind of little clustered area of stores. Now, there's two Ripper Docks, so you want to go to the Ripper Dock that is kind of outside, just off to the right here. So if I had to rate these Cyberware mods, these leg Cyberware mods, myself personally, I would put the Lynx Paw at the lowest, simply due to their lack of usability in the middle of combat. And also, that high price point, them being the most expensive out of the bunch, just means that you're throwing down a lot of eddies and you're getting less out of it. But again, it all just kind of comes down to your current build and your current playstyle. Then next up, I would probably go with the Fortified Ankles and Rare as the kind of like third best out of the bunch, just simply due to the lack of mobility that they offer you, and the lack of reactivity that they have as well. And then next up, I would probably put the Reinforced Tendons next up after that, because the Reinforced Tendons are excellent. They're great for mobility, they're great for combat, and for exploration in general. And then on top of that, as the best one, I would put the Fortified Ankles and the Epic quality, simply because there's a number of benefits to them. You get the same benefit as the Reinforced Tendons for that double jump, but you also get a decrease in fall damage, and also you get that extra control in the middle of combat. They're a ton of fun to use, and I highly advise you dudes save up 75 grand and go off and pick them up for yourselves. So there you go, my dudes. Hopefully you've enjoyed this little comparison video between the leg Cyberware mods, and hopefully it's allowed you to make a better decision on which leg Cyberware you actually want to get and install when you're playing the game. If you did enjoy this video, hit that thumbs up button. If you're new to the channel, maybe consider subscribing, and I will catch you all in the next one. Until then, peace.